So, Alex, many people have spoken of dream experiences and psychedelic experiences in the same breath, yet it is interesting to look at the differences between these two styles or types of altered states of consciousness. What do you believe is the difference between dreaming and the psychedelic experience? What can one do that the other can't, perhaps?
Well, I think they're obviously both visionary experiences. Mm-hmm. They occur without perceptual stimulation within the confines of our close-eyed heads. So you could say the psychedelic vision and the dream vision both occur in a theater that is apparently all-enveloping, an immersive environment of vision that is complete worlds, complete dimensions, both terrifying and extremely, everything, great and funny and crazy, symbolic. The importance of dreams has always been there and been baffling as well. I'd say that the main drive in the psychedelic vision that makes it different for me is the remarkable ability to access divinity, to access infinity, to access a kind of wisdom that is really the language of mystics, that is not as present in all my dreams. Mm-hmm. I am not always having the same kind of visionary drive toward a spiritual reality, and as noticeably in my dream state as in my psychedelic state. Mm-hmm. And in the psychedelic, there's almost always a return to spirit and love and a kind of transformation from fear and an opening, to unity. And in how I process the most positive psychedelic experiences, of course, there are those that make us feel terrible and contracted and threatened and never want to go back there too. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but the reason I keep going back to psychedelics is that they open the mind, and I remain conscious of these visions, which to my mind is the crucial difference, that one has complete apparent observational intelligence as one does when one is observing the outside world with a wakeful state. It's possible to have a wakeful witness and with memory turned on. Mm-hmm. With dreams, it's much more sketchy for myself to have many people who have trained in dream yoga and things like that are much more adept.
Dreaming.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I have not achieved that or put the time into developing my lucid dreaming. But psychedelically speaking, I've certainly had enough openings in a spiritual sense to know that that's the reason I go there, and for me it's quite distinctive and intentional that one can open up to those spaces. And quite often you need spiritual rootedness within those journeys as well, and it's best to be taken very seriously. Whereas dreaming, there's not so many legal instructions before dreaming. You know, dreaming is pretty much free, available, and the visionary journey that we go on every day, you know, and so there's a everyday quality to it. The psychedelic vision, you know, hopefully something is rare, important, and a long digestion period thereafter, you know, to really unpack the symbolic importance that might have come at a very rapid pace through this infinite intelligence that you have access to in a psychedelic state. Now, of course, we have the DMT molecule right in our brain.
Yeah.
And this probably plays an important role in dreaming as well, you know, as it probably does in our day-to-day perception, you know. The neuroscientists say that, you know, basically our perception is imagination. You know, we're projecting the space that we're surrounded by.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see the same quality of forgetfulness after a DMT experience and after you wake up from a dream. You know, that same kind of like you kind of remember it the first few minutes afterwards, but it's so fleeting, it escapes us. Now, dreams specifically seem to play more with the content of the subconscious. Psychoanalysts like Freud and Jung, they looked at dreams as a window into the depth of a person's psyche. Yet psychedelics, when people have a psychedelic experience, they seem like they're not being mirrored themselves as much as they are perceiving a greater reality. And that seems to be one kind of difference that you touched on, that psychedelic experiences, you're seeing something greater, a divine intelligence or something more outside of yourself. Or perhaps it's just the subconscious being pulled into playing with the external stimuli, you know? Do you believe that difference kind of exists, that psychedelics kind of pulls in something outside of ourselves, where dreams kind of stay contained within our subconscious?
Well, I think that many dreamers might say that they're in touch with the archetypal or collective unconscious, that they go, you know, the door opens in the back, and they go out the back door of their minds and start frolicking in the Elysian fields together, you know. A lot of people say they saw me in their dreams last night, you know. I keep very busy, you know. But the as far as the psychedelic stuff, I think it's a lot of that is also based on the dosage. You know, like at 100 mics or less, this is a psycholytic dose. And the early psychedelic therapists, before they made it illegal, were able to use this and have a talk therapy session, a long talk therapy session with something, and get a lot of things addressed, like the psychotherapy with psilocybin and things like this. And MDMA, somehow it facilitates the discussion of psychodynamic issues that might entrap a person, keep them in a negative mind spiral. And so the therapeutic application of these substances is also something that's quite positive and quite possible. So the engagement of psychodynamic material, even though it's a psychedelic experience, is the case. And often Groff has saying that you have to work through a certain amount of your psychodynamic stuff, perhaps before you might access the higher spiritual dimensions. Or you might get a mega dose and just bypass all that stuff, I guess.
Well, Terence McKenna had an interesting theory about dreams and psychedelics, where he noticed that many people report not having as many dreams the night after smoking a lot of cannabis. And people who regularly smoke cannabis, when they take a break, their dreams get very vivid in the evening. So he believed that the cannabis is pulling from the same reservoir of psychic energy that dreams generally pull from. So do you think that there's a reservoir of psychic energy that both dreams and psychedelics kind of constitute themselves with?
It's probably the visionary fuel, that is like a candle used up. There are certain beings that won't talk to me if I smoke cannabis. I just know. They won't, it's like it's not possible. So his theory, I think, is probably true to some weird degree.
Yeah. It's an interesting observation.
Yeah.
Well, have you ever had the experience of taking a psychedelic while in a dream? What has been called an acid dream?
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It was quite an amazing experience. I think I smoked DMT in my dream.
Wow.
And had an amazing experience. It wasn't the greatest DMT experience I've ever had, but I had a DMT experience, and then I came back and I realized I had dreamed I had a DMT experience.
Yeah.
So there's something that's encoded in us after we have a psychedelic experience, a memory of that that could, create a facsimile. If we were master of that, we could be tripping every night, as we possibly are if we don't smoke cannabis.
Why do you think the human brain craves this visionary experience? And even we know animals dream as well. Why is it important for us to enter these visionary realms? It seems so crucial to our survival. Why is that? What could be the evolutionary function of dreaming every single night?
Don't you think that they keep us asking that question, and that drives the intelligence? That we are filled with mystery. We don't know shit, actually, and that is humbling. It's hard for a mind to get, but if the mind were open to the dream world and seeing the absurd intelligence at work in the symbol play, that you would be struck by the sacred unconscious that is at play in yourself as it is at play in the dream of reality. And so in that way, it could have a function to open that sacred place in your mind that is similar in psychedelics.
Wow. Alex, thank you so much for exploring this subject with us today.
Hey, you bet, Tyler. Thank you.
Thank you again for listening to the CoSM Podcast. To stay up to date on any future podcasts or virtual events, please be sure to follow Chapel of Sacred Mirrors on Instagram and Facebook, and to subscribe on all major platforms. And thank you to everyone who has donated during this time. Every donation is a stand for the future of CoSM and allows us to continue to bring inspiring and uplifting content like this to our community. And thank you to Smile High for the soundtrack to this podcast. You can find him by going to the links in the description to this video.